A wonderful evening to all of you out there, and welcome to Channel 1 TV Scorecard. It is your official highlight show for the weekend. I'm all smiles, no prizes for guessing why. At Old Trafford, or should I say the leaky Old Trafford, AFC Bournemouth did a part 2 of what they started last season, and guess who was on the score sheet to rep his country? Ghana's Antoine Semenyo sprinkled a little salt in the wounds of Manchester United. At the Tottenham Stadium, it was an absolute cracker. It was 9 goals produced between Liverpool Football Club and Tottenham Hotspur. And on the blue side of Manchester, i.e. Manchester City, the woes have deepened. They made a trip to Villa Park, and Unai Emery and his Chargers managed to stick the knife in just a little deeper. Asante Kotoko and Hearts of Oak are in action as far as the local scene is concerned. We'll see if we can dive into some Spanish La Liga and also some Serie A if we have enough time. Let's do a quick turnaround. When we come back, I'll have the text and WhatsApp lines on your screens, and I'll introduce my 2 good friends in the studio who'll get the discussion going. Welcome back to Scorecard here on Channel 1 TV. My 2 good friends are in the studio, Emmanuel Nubo and Susu Graham. Guys, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Who wins the league at the end of the season? Because I see the 2 of you are doing a thing over here.
Oh, clearly the one in red.
Arsenal, of course.
Arsenal.
Yeah, Arsenal.
You know what's crazy, right? When we did our season projections at the start of the season, I think at least 6 out of 8 of us did Arsenal to win the league. And it's the one season where they are stumbling and they're just all over the place. But hey,
I think it's more Liverpool are doing exceptionally well, right?
True. Nobody expected Slot
I think
to come in and be this good.
I think let's give Liverpool the credit. I think if you look at Arsenal's points and things, it's not crazy like bad. It's just that Liverpool have been excellent.
Yep. And like I've always said, they've had the most difficult start to the season. But just snap thoughts. I mean, what have you guys been excited about this game weekend? What have you been looking at, really?
Well, I think I like what Everton did by getting a result against Chelsea. And I want to explain why.
Yeah.
Because Chelsea seem to have the longest winning streak in the Premier League this season with about 5 wins. Yeah. And Everton made sure it didn't go longer than that. So it just shows how interesting the Premier League has been this season. It's been very difficult for teams to kind of rattle off 5 straight wins.
It's just back-to-back strangulation of 2 teams. First Arsenal, then Everton.
There's also that. So it just shows that there's no, even if on paper you're like, oh, this is an easy game, this team is going to just get the win. It doesn't always come like that. So it's good for that to happen to the league sometimes, because we thought Arsenal would walk over them. Arsenal didn't. We thought, okay, Chelsea. Arsenal are the ones they didn't know how to play football. Chelsea, they didn't know how to play football. They will walk over them. Same
it didn't
thing.
happen.
So it just shows that there's no easy games. Maybe apart from Southampton.
Yeah. Even they got a draw. So
So.
Quick thoughts.
I mean, just to add to that, it makes it even interesting now with that Liverpool game in hand, which will be played
I was
in
just
February.
thinking about that.
You don't know what the dynamics of the league might be at that time, so it may be very interesting. But I'm happy the Ghanaian guy scored. I mean, Kudus got his goal.
Oh,
he brought the elephant.
You know what? Let's get into the highlights.
Election season. Why do you choose an elephant?
He brought it is possible too.
You know, people have read all meanings into it because they say he's from Nima. Nima is a stronghold of the incoming government. All kinds of dots have been connected. All kinds of dots.
I was joking, right?
Anyway, let's start off on the local note. Let's start off with Asante Kotoko and Accra Hearts of Oak. Asante Kotoko were up against Dreams FC. Vital win for them. Accra Hearts of Oak also picked up a positive result against Brecum Chelsea. Let's just have those pictures there briefly on your screens. But Kotoko following up the win against Hearts of Oak with another victory. Hearts of Oak also going to Brecum Chelsea and winning. Abubakar, the coach, obviously under a lot of pressure, Ouattara, but looks like he's turning things around. So just quick thoughts.
Well, I think it's like we always say, we won't see these teams do well because they drive the interest in the league. They are the biggest teams in the league. So their performance helps the league grow. So it's been a very disappointing few years, especially for Hearts. Now it's good to see them in the top half. They're within touching distance of the team that's in first. There's a chance that they can win the league. Same for Kotoko. So it would be nice if these 2 teams can mount a serious title challenge to at least bring some interest. Because when they are playing well, other teams, it's not to say that the other teams don't deserve to win. It's nice when a team like Samatex also wins the league, but at least let Kotoko and Hearts be near the top so that there's a bit more buzz and interest around the league. Because a lot of fans, people are fans of those two clubs. So when the teams are not playing well, it's very easy to tune out and say, oh, these people, they are doing baller, so I don't even want to hear their names. So.
Just snap thoughts on them. I mean, those two games.
Well, I mean, just to add to what Susu said, it's good when the big teams, the biggest teams of the land are playing well. Unfortunately, last week was supposed to be the super clash. It didn't get as much pull, neither did it get as much, media drive as it's supposed to get. And that's just because they are not playing as well as they are supposed to. Sure. But I mean, it's good for Kotoko. This is a relatively young team. There's been a lot of questions about the coach and all those things. So for them to follow up that Hearts win with another win at Dreams, I think it's good for them. Long may it continue. But I mean, I'm happy at least that the Hearts game was played at night. So floodlights are working and all that. I mean, the pitch not in the best of condition, but I mean, it's not bad. We'll take it
not
like
bad,
that.
Actually. I was about to say, because look, for the first time in a long time on this show, I didn't have to play the game of find the ball. It looks like I could actually see the ball on the pitch. You know, it's not that bad. These pictures it's not the best, but this is decent compared to what we typically get. I just feel like a lot more work should be done with the Legon Stadium, the pitch especially, and I think that we can use it for a decent amount of games. I think this was played on AstroTurf. This is the Dreams FC home, I believe.
Look at the bounce on the ball.
Exactly.
Like, oh my goodness.
I don't know how good AstroTurfs are for these type of matches, but the GFA knows best. So there you have the Dreams FC Asante Kotoko game in your shots there. So let's quickly move it on and get to some other stuff. But like I said, you guys can send us your thoughts via text and WhatsApp. The WhatsApp numbers will be on your screens. Then let's move it on to the English Premier League, where we start off at Villa Park. Unai Emery was up against fellow Spaniard Pep Guardiola. Now Guardiola has now won 9. He's now lost 9 in 11 as Manchester City boys following their crisis period. It's not been good at all. Let's get the highlights of this game. Wow, Manchester City really reeling. They've fallen to 7th on the Premier League table. No more quick thoughts on the whole Pep Guardiola situation. I know people are calling for some outrageous decisions to be made, but I mean, where do you stand with all of this in the face of injury, in the face of not having your best players fit and all of that? Are we making too many excuses for him? Because they say you're the best manager in the world. I mean, you need to manage. This is how you earn your salary.
Well, it looks like for the first time in maybe over a decade, Pep doesn't seem to be able to find a solution to a problem he's faced, because he's tried all manner of combinations. There's been the Gundogan, Kovacic, there's been Gundogan, whoever, Rico Lewis. It doesn't seem to be working.
Not even to cut you, at the post-game presser, he did say, he was asked, or Erling Haaland was asked if in this crisis period, Pep has tried anything different at training. He says nothing has really changed, and that he believes that he's been in crisis moments before and he's gotten them out, so same thing will happen.
I don't think he's been in crisis this bad before. This is 9 losses in 12. And the only game they won was against Forest. And if you watch that game, the 90 minutes of that game, Forest could have even drawn if they had taken their chances. So for me, maybe you question, should he have really signed the extension? Maybe he should have left on a high. You've won 4 Premier Leagues in a row. You've done everything.
But you are supposed to have done. Just to add a look, he did say that this is probably his last club job. He has said it, so it looks like he's decided that he's here for the long run.
Oh, he's also tired, just like Klopp. Anyway, I saw a video of Klopp skiing somewhere, but that's just by the way. I think for me, Pep, I think it's more of a psychological problem. And for some reason, outside Rodri's injury, a lot of those players have lost form. Bernardo Silva hasn't scored this season. Phil Foden scored his first goal after 16, 17 games. A lot of those other players are not living up to the billing. Haaland hasn't scored in, I think, a month or so in the Premier League.
That's crazy.
When I think after the first 10 games, he had about 12 goals.
He had about, like you said,
in the first 5 games or so, he had about 12 goals.
About 10
He's
games,
stuck on 13 goals for like
now Salah has passed him with 2 goals. You look at Guardiola now. He was scoring. He was a top defender. I think he did some 2 or 3 errors into this game. So I don't know whether it's psychological or it's the natural dip that happens after going on a peak. They've 4 out of, I think it was 6 Premier Leagues out of in the last 7 years. They've won the treble and all those things. maybe it's time for a rebuild because some of these players clearly look out of sorts. You look at a player like Walker, and Pep is really, really in his head. 2 games is Ederson, 2 other games is Ortega.
Because he dropped Ederson for this game.
He's trying everything and it doesn't seem to be working. And I think this problem was actually coming. If you look at the games, I think before the first international break and
They were limping through games.
The Fulham
2-1,
game,
3-2.
the Brentford game, I think 3 or so games consistently,
Yeah.
they were
with just
conceding
one,
first.
And they won with a margin of just 1 in all those
Exactly.
games.
So once everybody just saw that chink in the crack and everybody went for it, that's where we are now. But 9 losses in 12, that's relegation form. I mean,
No.
That's relegation form.
Right.
United has lost, I think, 7 games. City has lost 6. So they are not even that far
apart. If you
apart.
were to put these 9 games in a 38-game season in context, this about 11 games. If you times it by 3, it means that by the end of the season, they would have about looking like 15 points with like 5
serious.
games left. If you have 15 points with 5 games left, you are probably going down.
Yeah, and this was against an Aston Villa team that were also in bad form.
Well, Aston Villa have won 3 out of the last 4, but if you make it out of the last 10,
Yeah,
it's bad.
They had been in pretty poor form themselves. They were looking to bounce back. How much of this is Unai Emery genius and how much of this is just Manchester City caught at a bad time?
Well, Emery beat him at this same ground last season. So Emery does have
1-0, same 1-0, yeah.
No, that was 1.
1-0.
No, I think that was also 2-1, I believe.
No, it was 1-0.
Was it
It was
1-0?
a very dominating performance.
Yeah,
I think City
they
barely
ended
had
up
a
winning by
shot.
just 1 goal. I remember.
I think City didn't have a shot in that
Yeah.
game, if
No,
I remember correctly.
they had a shot. I think their shot stopped after the 15th minute or something. Anyway, the thing about City is right now, City have become very poor at defending transitions. And that's a player thing, in my opinion. And the reason I say this is they've been coached the same way. They've been doing things, they've been stopping transitions for the last 3 years, playing the same way. But suddenly they can't stop transition.
But the
So
thing is
you have
that
to ask-
from kickoff, Villa had a chance.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. You have to
Villa could
ask
have scored in the first minute of the
don't
game.
get me wrong. I'm just saying that the main thing right now is that transition defense has fallen apart. And that's one of Pep Guardiola's biggest fears. Remember, he stopped playing attacking fullbacks on the outside and inverted fullbacks for the first time because of transition. That having the fullbacks in midfield, at least it protected the middle and made transition harder. He had Kyle Walker. Kyle Walker is one of his key defenders for big games to defend transition.
In fact, I hope we could see the highlights again because even in the first goal, they lost the ball. The ball was played through the middle and then they just
out.
Exactly, and that's part of what I'm getting to. Defending transition has always been something that their weakness has always been transition, but they've defended transition well about 70-80% of the time. Now they're defending transitions well maybe 10% of the time if they are lucky. That's the biggest drop off, and now it means they're conceding a lot more big chances. So at this point, Man City are conceding 2 big chances a game on average.
Your keeper
There was
will
a
have to be
start
doing more
where
work
in
now.
the 2020-2021 season, they considered 36 big chances all season. I think about 2-3 weeks ago, they had considered 38 this season alone in the league. That should tell you that they went...
Hey, we are not done in December.
Yeah, well, exactly. So that should tell you how much they've dropped. Then you go back to the goalkeeping. I've always said this, that Ederson, as a goalkeeper, sometimes he's not really all the way there. Now, if you have Ederson having to face 2 big chances a game, his weaknesses as a shot stopper are more exposed. And there's a reason Ortega too is not... Ortega is a better shot stopper, but he's not as good with his feet. So now the things that Ederson was good at, that you are trying to compensate by using Ortega. You've lost in terms of your build-up and stuff. Then all these systemic problems, you look at a lot of players being off form. Kyle Walker, he can't run anymore. Gundogan, he can't run. Vardy is just making so many mistakes. So for me, Pep, you know, when you're the manager, you have to take the ultimate blame. That one is clear. But for me, the players are just so poor in so many ways. It's very difficult for me to say this is solely on Pep. He has to take a lot of responsibility, of course, but I look at so many players, like you said, Foden scoring his first Premier League goal of the season in December.
Player of the season.
We are 17 games into the season. Mind you, Foden scored 19 goals last season. If you have a player who scored 19 goals last season, I think it's just okay. If he drops off, maybe you even give me 11. And we're at this stage of the season. Just on the law of averages, it means that he's going to finish the season with at best 3 goals. So there's just so much going on. And like you said, Haaland too, he's not scoring. So the chances are not coming as often. So it's just so difficult for me to put this on Pep because I just feel that I just see a lot of players who are not pulling their weight. It's almost like when things were working, they were confident and stuff. Now, they just don't know what to do. They completely look clueless. And it's very rare that you see a top team just dip like that. So I don't even know what Pep can do, because even if you have the right tactics, will the players be able to execute if they are playing this badly?
Well, they have a winnable run coming. They have some Ipswich in there. They have the kind of teams that will get you like the next 5 games they have very winnable games. So hopefully,
could you do you have the teams?
Yeah, I think I can pull it out. Over the weekend on radio, I remember we did it because I was with Coach Anyao. I managed to read out the fixtures. Let me see if I can get it for you.
Because I'll be interested to see.
Yeah, but even with the way they are playing.
No, but you see,
that's the problem. With the way they are playing, you can't even trust them to beat those teams.
Because imagine they have Southampton. Southampton are doing their things at the back.
And they played Southampton and they struggled. I think that game was it 2-1 or 1-0?
To be fair, Southampton, you never know. Because even Liverpool, to be honest, they gave Liverpool a good game, but their own self-destruct.
So I have the fixtures here. Good. So they have Everton next. But
that seems like a difficult game.
From what we've seen from Arsenal and Chelsea, that's not an easy game.
That's a 0-0.
Then they have Leicester City after that.
Oh, Leicester are very poor.
Yeah,
Leicester are probably the only team that are more open than City in the league right now.
They have West Ham after that. They have Salford in the FA Cup. Brentford back in the league. Ipswich.
So is Brentford away or home?
Brentford is a home for Brentford.
But I have to say,
that's interesting.
The only teams I see them beating in that run are Leicester and Ipswich, to be honest. Because if you look at
the fall off is that bad.
The reason I'm saying this is that we're talking about their issues with transition.
Yeah.
And I think about the West Ham team. Imagine Kudus getting the ball.
Bowen.
You see the things Morgan Rogers was doing to them.
Yeah.
Kudus will do the same thing. The game Morgan Rogers had where he dominated, because he could look at the second goal where Morgan Rogers picks up the ball.
But just outside more organized. West Ham are a very poorly organized team.
That being said, the transition threats.
Yeah.
They have.
How high
they even have as many runners, because they have Kudus, Bowen, Somerville can also do danger on the counter attack. They have the players to head them. Then you look at Brentford. Brentford are a very good counter attacking team. You think about Mbeumo, Visa, Kevin Schade, Damsgaard. They have a lot of guys who, if you give them the space to run, they will do that. The only reason I think they can beat Ipswich and Leicester is Leicester are just horrible defensively.
Also very open.
Horribly open.
Will play from the back.
Ipswich just don't have. Ipswich, there's player quality. Their players are just not good. Remember, this is a team that did back-to-back promotions. When you do back-to-back promotions, it's difficult to get your team on a Premier League level.
Really punching above
your team is probably not even. Your team was probably on a mid-table championship level, and you overperformed. So that's the only reason I see those two games as winnable.
Well, during the post-game presser, Erling Haaland says that he needs to do better as a player because his own standards, he's not living up to them. And so he is taking some responsibility. I also noticed that Manchester City can't even seem to play out of the back anymore. Lots of mistakes. They used to be the gold standard for playing out of the back. Now they make a mistake literally every time they try to play out of the back. So the crisis is really deep. Hopefully they can find some respite somewhere. Let's go to Selhurst Park, where we had some London derby of some sort. It was Crystal Palace welcoming Arsenal. Arsenal had played Palace in midweek in the Carabao Cup and had given Gabriel Jesus a springboard. He looked at them again, licked his chops, and went back to work in that same game. Let's get the highlights. Rout, really, against Crystal Palace. Let me start off with you, Susu, on Oliver Glasner. Now, again, it's hard for me to watch his team go down this way because I've seen what he can do with other teams when given the personnel that he wants. What's going on with him?
You know, it's strange because before this week, they hadn't considered 3 goals in any match. The most they had considered is 2. So they were fairly solid. Their issue was they were not winning matches. They were not scoring them. There were lots of draws in there. And Arsenal come and score, I think, was it 4 during midweek and then 5?
No, I think it was 3. They gave me the 3-2, right?
3-2, yeah. So it's almost like you have a fairly good defense and then suddenly your defense just falls apart against this Arsenal team. So I don't want to read too much into it. I want to say that this is more of the exception on the rule because like we said, no game where they've conceded 2 or more goals until this week. So I just feel that the attacking is not really there. They don't score enough. I believe that that's the problem. And that might be a bit of a talent issue because if you lose Olise, it's going to be difficult to get.
Eze is injured as well.
And I don't think he's even played well when he's been
He's not been good this season.
He's not been very good this season. Then you look at Nketiah and Mateta. Those are not strikers who create their own chances. They need the guys behind them to work. So Ismail Assar has now started to try and pick up the slack. Kamada too has been a bit disappointing considering the profile of player he is, what you expect of him. So I just feel like their issues attacking. I feel like they just had they've just caught Gabriel Jesus on the best week of his life because we're talking
5
about
goals in 2 matches.
and we're talking about a guy who had gone almost a year without a Premier League goal. Because his last Premier League goal before this weekend, if I remember correctly, was like in January or February.
He could have gotten back-to-back hat-tricks.
Yeah. Exactly. So it's almost like you just have to look at this from the Palace perspective and think that Arsenal caught them they caught Arsenal at a bad time for them, let me say, because you don't expect Gabriel Jesus to play this well, considering what we've seen in the last 9-10 months.
Back-to-back games.
Exactly.
Somebody even says that we shouldn't read too much into the Jesus performance.
His
because it's against Palace.
Oh, so maybe his birthday is coming, you know. So. But look, it's just that I don't want to say this. It's too bad for Palace. Palace, they want to be a solid mid-table team. I think they don't have to worry about a relegation battle, in my opinion. Because
do you think they've spent money badly? Because they bought this Brazilian youngster,
Mateus Franca
for like 28 million.
That's a lot of money.
I barely see him on the pitch. They bought Eddie Nketiah for decent money. He's
That's
not
25
scoring.
million.
But yeah, I think they might have not done well with their attackers. But I think the defense is pretty solid, like I said. Because Chalobah, Lacroix, and Gehi are doing very well at the back.
They play a back three.
Yeah, they are doing very well. I think the
Nathaniel Klein and Mitchell.
Tariq Mitchell is quite a
He's
decent
good.
left back. So,
good.
and even Will Hughes, Adam Watson,
Lemma,
Watson is very injured for a minute.
Yeah, I'm just saying that the 4 midfielders they have are pretty decent. It's the front, it's the attack where the issues are, because at the end of the day, you can't draw your way into being a good Premier League team. You need to win games, and those guys at the front need to be a bit more decisive, a bit more efficient, a bit more creative. So
I think Daichi Kamara needs to take a lot of stick. He's a big profile player. Won Europa League with Frankfurt. Went to, I think, was Lazio.
But you see, Lazio is when his problem started, because Maurizio Sarri didn't take a fancy into him, so he didn't play too much.
Left after just 1 season.
Exactly. So it's almost like he now has to kind of rebuild himself. But I just feel like the attack is the issue for Palace. The defense seems to be okay, because if you go this long without conceding 3 goals in a season, you are doing okay, especially for a team that's not one of the top teams in the league. So the goals just need to come more. They need to turn a few of those draws into wins, and they would have been better off. But the way I see the table now, because of how bad Southampton, Ipswich, Leicester, and to a lesser extent Wolves have been, I believe they are a bit safe. But if Wolves start picking up some form, I'm a bit afraid of them.
If you had to make a January signing for Palace, what department or what type of player are you buying them?
It's definitely an attacking player.
A creative player.
It's definitely a creative, because Mateta, when he gets service, you can see that there's something there.
Nketiah came with really good form before the season started.
Exactly. But you see, he was playing ahead of Eze and Olise. And we've seen Olise at Bayern. He's shown he's a world-class player. So if they can get another attacking player to kind of feed Nketiah and feed Mateta a bit better, they will look a lot better as a team.
Talk to me about Bukayo Saka pulling up after a little over 10 minutes. I saw some statistics that said that he's the first player to make 26,000 minutes at age 22. Not even Cristiano Ronaldo was playing these kind of minutes at his age.
Or Eden Hazard.
Yeah, Eden Hazard is actually close second or third in that particular list. How does Arsenal cope? I mean, depending on how long he's out for, how do they manage this, and how do they manage his situation going forward?
Well, I think we were discussing offset that if it's a hamstring injury, whether it's a strain or any form of, if it's not a tear and it's just a pull, he's going to be out for at least 3 to 4 weeks. And you already know in the Premier League, the festive season is where you play a lot of games.
Games are coming.
And Saka is very instrumental. Maybe now with Martinelli scoring, with Gabriel Jesus coming into some bit of form, they don't need to rush him back as much. Odegaard is also there. Kai Havertz seems to have found himself a bit. So I think they should just give him some time to rest, because it's going to be a long season. I think they have some easier fixtures.
Arteta never lets him rest.
I saw a graphic that completely cracked me up. So it's like a graphic of a cow with Saka's head on it, and Arteta's like the milk guy.
And the car is skinny. I've seen it.
Skinny. I'm like, what? This is like a proper depiction of
it.
Because I think until this season or last season, he had played 82 consecutive Premier League games. That's a lot.
That's basically 2 seasons when he played.
He played every game for 2 seasons running.
Yeah, that's a lot for a young player.
Crazy.
And it's something we've discussed on one of these shows before, that young players nowadays are playing loads of minutes. That's a lot of mileage on your leg. And I think that might
At the time
stifle
he
your
turns
progression.
28, he'll be
Well,
burnt
so
out.
at 24, 25,
you've
you've already hit
example
your
of a
peak.
player who played a lot of games as a youngster, and when they got to their late 20s,
What's that?
we didn't see them again. Michael Owen.
Yeah.
A lot of people feel like Michael Owen. I mean, think about how old he
Started
was when
playing
he
around
won.
16 years.
Think about
16,
how old
17.
he was when he won his first Golden Boot, won
I
a
think he won the
Ballon
Ballon d'Or,
d'Or,
was it 21,
all of
22?
those things. By the time he went to Real Madrid, went to Newcastle and came back, mid 20s.
burnt.
That was
And I've heard a player complain, I think it was Ashley Cole. I think it was at the point, almost at the end of his Chelsea career. He said he was around 27, and he says he felt like he was 35.
Yeah.
Because he had just been playing
So the
like
miles
week
on
in,
those
week out
legs.
football. I don't know, but Arsenal need to do better with Bukayo Saka.
Yeah, I think he needs to be managed well, and that's where I feel I'm a bit disappointed in their recruitments they did this season. There's no backup for him.
You know, that's why I was slightly disappointed, because Sterling is there, but it seems like Arteta doesn't want to play.
When you say
No,
backup, do you mean like a lefty who can also play on the right side, or just a winger?
No, someone who can supplement the creativity. It doesn't necessarily have to be either left or right. Because for me, if you ask me, I think Sterling is done. It's not even about Arteta playing him or not. I've seen him in games and he
But-
looks
but
like he's
that-
getting to the end. Yes,
But
Me,
see,
that's
no,
my personal
fair,
verdict
but,
on him.
My whole thing is that why buy him and not use him?
That's what I'm saying, I
just-
question the
I'm just
recruitment.
also thinking, because like you're saying, there's a good chance that if you buy a Saka backup, he will spend the whole time on the bench. Because Saka is always playing.
No, but as a coach, that's where the coaching comes in. You have to manage his game because you already know the track record and you know what he brings to the team. So it's not every game you put him in there and play him 80 and 90 minutes. Because even in the midweek game, yes,
Yeah.
fine. Crystal Palace put out a strong starting lineup. You had to bring him on again. So, and I think there was the period where Odegaard was injured too.
Yeah.
Heavy reliance on him. So you would have to manage it because getting to the business end, you need your top players to be in good health and be in good form.
Bukayo Saka and Arsenal, he's literally instrumental to everything they do. So I'm sure they have to probably find a way to get him back on the pitch as soon as possible. Let's take our first break here on the show. When we come back, I'll read a few of your messages, and then we will get to the elephant stool that popped up at the London Stadium. Very interesting happenings over there in that particular game. Stay with us here on Scorecard. We'll be right back. On Channel 1 TV. Let me see if I can read a few of your messages that have been coming through so far before we get into more highlights. Okay, we have a few here. This one is from Abdul Wadud, watching from Kumasi. He says, Man U used one stone to kill two birds. Sporting is not winning, neither is Ruben Amorim. Interesting.
My picky.
Able Minister from Cove City says, what a red weekend for me. Kotoko won, Man City officially out of the title race. Yanum into brackets, Man United in a relegation battle. Please, how is coach doing, by the way? Nimli is fine. He says he has a little Hamatan-induced sore throat.
He's not fine. He's not
He's
fine.
under the weather.
He's under the weather.
Just like his team.
A little sore throat.
I pick him.
Chelsea drop points. Salah is the best player in the world. Liverpool 4 points clear at the top with a game in hand. What a time for me to be a Liverpool fan. And the guy is German. Anyway, this one here is Nimli always absents himself whenever United lose. Why? You see what I was telling you? Like, hey, listen, Nimli is under the weather, please.
Oh, God.
Saint Kizito from
Right now, they have marking register.
I'm telling you, people notice things. I'm telling you, people notice things. Saint Kizito from Asen Fosu says, good evening, guys. I think Pep should honorably resign and save his reputation because he is becoming an absolute disaster now. This one here says,
I just want to respond to that because no one was, when Ancelotti got sacked at he got sacked at Bayern,
Yeah.
sacked at Napoli,
Yeah.
had to go to Everton. Real Madrid still hired him after.
true.
So don't worry about Pep.
And then he's going on to win 2 champions.
Yeah,
I don't
worry.
think Pep is being worried about himself.
Yeah, don't worry.
Francis from Sokoban says that big congrats to my darling clubs, Hearts of Oak and Arsenal, for making my week a great one. For Man United, dear, they will suffer and go to relegation. This one is from Kweku from La Paz, says Arsenal's style of football is very strange. They approach every match as if there is nothing at stake. Oh, the people won 5-1. What do you want them to do again? Football fans. Fred from Sunyane says, good evening. In fact, I watched United's game today, and I can confidently say that the following players are not United material. Joshua Zexi, Maguire, Malacia, Anthony, Euro, Evans, Mount, Lindelof. How can you win the league with these players?
Isn't everybody?
Oh.
But you just arrived like.
See, I said it already before. I said United will tell you that they need to buy Amorim his own team before he can perform.
This is what they do. This is what they do every
rinse and repeat. They said, the irony is that they had just bought Ten Hag his complete team and then fired him. Yeah. And now that Amorim has come, they are saying that some of the players that Ten Hag bought are not good. You just bought Lenny Euro and he has been included in this list. Euro hasn't even played 10 games.
I don't even think he's 21.
Already, the fans are calling for his head. Daniel Turkson from Cape Coast says the EPL title race is still a 3-horse race, but I think big matches will separate the men from the boys. Kudos to the Madrid teams and Kotoko for winning their games. Galaxy at Mame Krobo in their front plane says, I'm sad Chelsea played a draw today. I miss Kuku in today's game. This one here is from Morris from East Legon. Says, if not for the Forest defeats, Liverpool would have been unbeaten by now, but we are still winning the league. You will never walk alone, you say. Nana Kwame from Sunyani says, hi Ben, Morgan Rogers is a very good player and reminds me of Prime Dele Ali. I think somebody said the same thing.
We're saying that.
Lupo said the same thing in the
have
street.
to say, it's crazy. I always say this. Man City let him go.
Yeah.
For not a lot of money. They were very okay that way.
Yeah.
We have other
I look
talented
at like
players.
his ball control, his basic like motor and like tenacity when he like running the pitch. I'm like, I was telling you that they probably need to drug test him because as at the 90th minute, the kind of energy he had and like the way he was running and still bullying guys, I was like, that's crazy. Anyway, Morgan Rogers is doing his thing out there, beginning to get the recognition he deserves. Hopefully, he doesn't get overhyped into becoming a bad player like a lot of people end up becoming. Let's get into more highlights. Let's go to the London Stadium this time. West Ham were up against Brighton and Hove Albion. Let's get the highlights. Have not won in their last 5 Premier League matches. Struggling. West Ham themselves are in the bottom half of the table, so they're also struggling as well. Kudus did score his 3rd goal of the season, and he did something interesting. So, like I said, he brought out a little elephant stool, and he was asked about what was going on with the elephant stool because we'd seen him take a seat a couple of times where he says he's taking a breather. Well, he says that a lot of people are jacking his style, so he's having to switch it up a little, make it a little bit of a signature for himself, and that the elephant is also a symbol of traditional authority in Ghana. So that's him putting his country on the map.
He did explain.
You don't believe him? Why
Oh no!
you got the eyebrows
I
like
mean, the timing of the elephants too is
crazy.
It's just. I don't. Is the word unfortunate is not the right. It's interesting.
Yeah. It's curious.
Oh yeah. But to be fair, I don't think there's anything in it. I think it just happens to be a coincidence. But
yeah.
It's just funny after the year we've had. It's just
but just quick thoughts on him. That was his 3rd league goal of the season. Much needed rescued points for West Ham United in a game they didn't play well. And Brighton should have won that game.
Oh, is the stadium?
Balls were cleared off the line and stuff like that.
It's Brighton Stadium. Brighton have never lost at the London Stadium. Some way, somehow.
Wow.
Yeah, so West Ham have never beaten Brighton at the London
That's
Stadium.
crazy.
Yeah, so it was a lot of people were looking at this game like, okay, let's see whether West Ham can kind of fix this problem. They weren't able to, of course, but Brighton are a good team. West Ham are not really playing well. And for Kudus, I think it's important because we are hearing about having some issues with the coach. He had that long suspension.
The manager was booed for taking him off, I believe, in midweek.
I mean, because he's one of the few exciting players in the team. When he has the ball at his feet, things happen. Yeah. He's exciting. He moves the ball. He progresses the ball. I always say he needs to work a bit on his decision making in terms of when to pass, when to shoot. Yeah. Being a bit less selfish in terms of taking those shots. Because he's great at shooting, but just because you're very good at it doesn't mean you should do it every time, But look, not to take away from him, he's still an excellent player and he shows very good instincts. That goal is a very good example. I was watching the highlights with my dad. He says he loves players who kind of run and go and take those headers and follow up on shots.
That's a difficult goal to score.
He's right about it because it's very important. Even Kai Havertz, his goal was the same thing. Yeah. He was the only one who moved when Gabriel Jesus took the header. Yeah. So the Palace defenders were watching. Yeah. They started doing offside and
a rebound is always difficult to get to.
Yeah, and because Havertz had moved the moment Jesus headed the ball. Look at the easy chance he got. Yeah. You make easy chances when you move when shots are taken. So it's a very important skill. It shows good goal scoring instincts, and it was great to see. But look, we
just
know
touch on something for me actually before you move on. He said he was asked at the post game presser about him scoring the goal. So he started the game on the left-hand side. He went to the right-hand side for 10 minutes and he scored. And he was asked what his preferred position is. He says that he wants to play on the right-hand side, but currently he's sacrificing. How much longer can West Ham sacrifice probably their best player playing in an unfamiliar position?
The problem is the other player who plays on the right is Jared Bowen.
Yeah.
Who's the captain?
And he was captain for the game, actually.
And he is also one of their best players. So those are their two best players. So I don't know how you can also say Bowen should not play on the right. You see, it becomes very difficult. And you have Paqueta, who's also one of their best attacking midfielders, who sometimes plays in the middle. The problem is that they have 3 good left-footed players.
But how did Moyes make it work? That's the question you.
But he used to play Kudus on the left.
Moyes actually played
But he
Kudus
made
a lot
it work.
on the right.
Yeah, but maybe you play him on the right and put Bowen in strike,
Exactly.
right? And then
Bowen actually played in strike when Moyes was there, and then Kudus played on the right side.
so but sometimes you also play
Shift him
Kudus
on
on
the
the
left, yeah.
So the coach, the truth is right now the issue is probably between Paqueta, Bowen, and Kudus. We know Paqueta is going to be in the center, so it's whether Bowen and Kudus, which wing, who play on which wing. I believe that the way Kudus plays, he's not particularly good at crossing the ball anyway. He loves cutting side and shoot. Might as well play him on the right because Bowen is probably a better quote-unquote winger in that sense for me. So I would prefer Bowen on the left to at least use his crossing ability. But maybe that seniority that Bowen has also means that you have to. He also wants to play on the left. Maybe you should also say, okay, he's the senior
Because he
guy.
wants to score more goals, get into the England team.
Exactly. So everyone and what they want for themselves. So it's a very difficult situation. But having 3 left-footed players is arguably the problem.
Especially if they're
they're lining up in the same play.
Yeah, exactly.
It's never made sense to me. I'm like, why are you playing 3 left-footed players on the same play?
Well, they've happened to buy 3 left-footed players who are all very good.
Then
So
they all end up drifting towards the same place.
So
And you know the funny thing, they are all really lazy.
I mean, it's
if you take
similar to
Bowen
Real
out of
Madrid.
it, none of them do anything else when they are off the ball.
But it's similar to Real Madrid, who've ended up with 3 right-footed players in Rodrigo, Vini, Mbappe. And I can even add Brahim Diaz to that. But Brahim Diaz is a bit more willing to sacrifice and play.
And he's more versatile too.
Exactly. But it's the same way that Madrid have those. So, look, it happens sometimes. And you just have to deal with it, get on with it. I don't think Kudus should have too much problem playing on the left. You're a great dribbler. You will make things happen wherever you play. Play on the left, maybe you won't get your shooting angles won't be as good.
Always has to readjust his body to suit.
But okay, it just means shoot less. Play more cutbacks, play more crosses. Use other tools.
But I think what adds is that the team generally is not playing well.
Yep.
So if the team was playing well,
Nobody
you were
would
getting
really-
results, then people are willing to sacrifice. Maybe during the game you can switch wings, all these kind of things.
You see, that's what I'm saying. That I feel like sometimes these things is a bit overblown because I don't think the manager will mind if you switch occasionally unless he's so strict that you know.
You know how managers get these days.
It depends on the manager. Some managers don't mind. Some managers really care. Because someone like Ancelotti, if his players switch,
He doesn't really mind.
He
He's
doesn't
very
really
flexible
mind. He's very
tactically.
flexible with
Some
those
managers will not give you that flexibility. Just quick thoughts on Brighton. In fact, at the point in the season, they were top of the table.
Yeah.
They've dropped to 10th. They've not won in their last 5 matches. They are not scoring as freely as they should. What's the problem in there?
I think it's a couple of things. Some players have just dipped form. You look at Ferguson. When I was one of the people when Harry Kane left, I'm like, oh no, this guy had semblance of Kane. The way he can just hit the ball, the way his striking ability and all those kind of things. And he's dropped off. I think he scored just 1 goal in his last 30 or so games.
he scored 1 goal. I think he went almost a year or just over a year without scoring.
Yes, and then they've had some injuries too. Dunk was out for a while.
Pedro in and out.
Yeah,
of the
now Adingra doesn't play as much. I just think it's bound to happen.
Mitoma not hit the heights that
he's
had
been
everybody
lost for a while.
Yeah, everybody
when
chasing
everyone
him.
was talking about his thesis he wrote at university
yeah,
on the art of now no one is talking about
But I don't think it's just a combination of things.
Yeah.
This is a new manager too. He's trying to imbibe his philosophy in this team. So I think for teams like Brighton who recruit and sell, these kind of things are bound to happen.
Yeah.
There'll be a stretch where they are very good, a stretch where they are not so good. They'll find a way to even it out, and then they'll finish maybe between 8 and 12 thereabouts.
So they
find 1 or 2 gems, they'll sell, make money,
Yeah.
and then
According to
But
their
you know-
season projections, they are
to
just
be
about
fair,
where they should be.
you see,
Exactly.
they spent a lot. They spent about 250 million this summer.
They blew a lot of money.
They spent a lot. Remember, they had the
Jorginho.
Caicedo money and and then their own money, which they were now ready to spend.
They didn't even spend that money on. I'm just thinking right now.
I think
the guy who scored, Matthias Vaifa or whatever.
Yes, the Dutch international.
Minter, they bought Jorginho from
Rata,
Yeah, they bought a few guys. They actually spend their money. Sure. So look, they spend money. So I think actually they probably are a bit disappointed where they are. They were probably thinking, okay, this we should be making it into Europe.
Are you sure? I mean, I'm sure they are just waiting to sell Baliba and make some cool money.
I think they wanted to get back in Europe, considering the money they spent.
Exactly.
You don't spend 250 million to be in mid-table.
Yeah, but Europe actually killed their league last season.
I mean, there's tiers to Europe. If you can do a conference league, worst case scenario, I'm sure they'll take it. So Brighton and Hove Albion, Tariq Lamptey could have almost scored a last-minute winner in that game. Yeah. Was it Wan-Bissaka?
Yeah, the spider.
He clattered him off the line. It was such a timely clearance. But that's just Wan-Bissaka for you. Let's go to Old Trafford. One of my favorite grounds in football to go to these days. It's leaky, it's creaking, all kinds of things. AFC Bournemouth ran around there last season. They ran it back again this season. Let's get the highlights. Putting the icing on the cake for AFC Bournemouth. Well, let me start with you on this one. How are you feeling about the Amorim start to life in the Premier League?
I think it's been up and down, and it's expected.
It's not picky.
Not for me. It's expected. I mean, you come into the season, I think was it 8 or so games into the season, and there's a sharp contrast between how the previous manager was playing and what he wants to implement. Yep. At least
complete
you can see
overhaul of system.
Exactly. You can see some patterns of play. You can see some form of organization, what he wants to do. 3-4-2-1 or whatever, whether it's 3-4-3. But clearly, some players are not fit for this system. And if you ask me, players make the system. So if you have players that don't fit the system and you are playing them, that's going to be a problem. You look at Mazraoui. He's played better as a right centre back, not a wing back end. That's lazy defending. But then I think to start with, if Amorim needs to do something, he needs to get a set 11, let them play 3-4 games consistently. Then now you can do the chop and change, because there's been a lot of that. One game Højlund starts, one game Ahmad is playing as a right wing back, another game he's playing as a 10.
I have to be fair to him about the strikers at least, because it looks like every time one striker starts, they don't play well. So it's like this guy does. So he brings the other striker. They don't play well, but when they come off the bench, they all look better.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Give a set 11 a consistent run of games.
Even if you go on a 2-3 game drought, let me play. Let me build some rhythm.
That's it. Then after that, then now you can do the chop and changing. Okay, no, this player fits better for this role. This player fits better for this role. But in addition to that, it's the same old thing we've been saying about Manchester United. The players are just not living up to the billing. You look at the first goal. Zegzi, you are huge. It's a set piece
probably the tallest guy in that box.
And you are ducking. I'm like, you're playing for Manchester United. You would expect that in a game like this, Kepa should be man of the match because of the battering he'll go under.
But to be fair, Kepa did make a lot of very good saves.
Yeah, but relatively, he didn't look like United were going to score. If you ask me, I would say no.
United had chances. I think their finishing really let
Fernandes let them down a couple of times.
I can't see how a team creates an XG of 2.7 in a game and loses 3-0. I think we should also talk about, as you can say sometimes, sorry to cut you off.
No problem.
You can coach a win and the players can lose you a game. I don't think Amorim coached a 3-0 defeat, if you get what I'm saying. I don't know if you understand where I'm coming from.
I guess, but if a team like Bournemouth comes to Old Trafford and they don't look rattled at any point, that's worrying, because you are a big team.
Yeah. And this is a team that beat you 3-0 here at the same venue. Have some pride.
Exactly. And right from the first minute, they're already having a go at Manchester United. I think Ugarte got booked in the first 10 or 20 minutes or so. Kobe Mainoo losing the ball. Like, basic things that you'd expect
and
your players
to do. And Bournemouth ran a lot. So if you are a lazy team, you are going to have your work cut out for you on the day.
And then you have Zexi leading the press. He's not going to intimidate anything. Houston is actually a very good player with the ball at feet. So, so many things just not coming together. So I think Amorim have a set starting 11, provided the players are fit. Let them play a round of 4 or 5 games, regardless of the results. Let them get some rhythm. Let there be some cohesion, because, yes, it's difficult to implement your game plan or your system when you come in the middle of the season, especially when the players you have don't fit the system per se. So the whole one day Bruno is playing the midfield too, another day
he's playing false 9.
And you do understand. It's going to take some time, but for me, I think there's still enough quality in there for them to maybe finish in the top half. But outside that,
The top
I'm
half
not.
is
Hold your
the
horses
minimum.
there. I want you to talk a little bit more about United, their problems, the goals they are conceding, and if the personnel really needs to change wholesale all over again. Let's take a quick break here on Scorecard. When we come back, we'll get more into the United issues. Don't go anywhere. On Channel 1 TV, let's finish up that discussion on Manchester United. So just quick thoughts on United's undulating Amorim starts, and also does he really need to overhaul this team, because the cries are beginning to get louder?
Okay, I think we have to look at it different ways. What do United want? What is their aim? Like, where do they want to be as a club? Do they want to be a team that regularly qualifies for the Europa League, occasionally the Champions League? Do they want to be in the Champions League every season? Or do they want to win the league? That's how you decide how many players to get rid of. Because I feel like if they feel like they are okay finishing the top 6 every season, their squad is fine. I think that if that's their, I feel like if they want to be the
United
champions,
want to be back winning Premier League titles.
so that's why I'm going to it. If they say they want to, okay, we want to be in the Champions League every year, so top 4, top 5 is our goal, because now of the extra place and that kind of stuff. Maybe you win the Europa League, whatever. You might need 3, 4 new players. If they want to win the title, they might need 6 new players. That's for their starting lineup. That's how I see it. You see, because
Someone said they needed 10.
that's excessive.
That's extreme.
I think there's a lot of quality, but you see, profiles need to be used the right way. They need to be implemented the right way. They need to be put in good position to succeed. I think, let me use an example of their strikers. I said this before about Rasmus Højlund. He's a very good finisher. He's almost like a mini Haaland, but he's also very early in his career. He's still learning his craft. He scored 9 goals in Syria. There was no way a striker who scored 9 goals in Syria was going to come to the Premier League and become a striker that's going to take you to the next level. It was never going to happen. It was too early for him. But if you feel like you are building a long-term project, you might think, okay, let's see how Højlund develops in the next 3-4 years, and we'll grow with him, right? You have someone like Bruno Fernandes, who he's one of the most dynamic midfielders when he's used properly. You have interesting players like someone like Lenny Yoro. Excellent centre-back prospect. Real Madrid wanted him for a reason. Matthias de Ligt, I still think there's a player in there. I think even though things didn't work out for him at Bayern and Juventus to a certain extent, there was still talent. There were just some issues. Both times he joined teams that had issues. Because look, he joined Juventus. Then things...
Say he's a coach killer. Have you heard that?
No, I've seen that he's never had the same manager for
a whole season.
2 seasons in a row.
But
there's context. He goes to Juventus, and Juventus' issues are we want to win the Champions League, so they keep trying to switch the coach, and things fall apart. They have financial issues because of COVID. The board gets sacked because of the whole transfer, manipulation and that kind of stuff. He goes to Bayern. Now Bayern are now doing an overhaul. I think he's also not been lucky with the clubs he's gone to. He's not gone to clubs which are stable in that way. So I just look at a lot of players. I'm thinking to myself, okay, these guys, they might not be the best of the best, but let's see how they look after 2-3 years. Let's give them some time. But I think the problem is United fans still think it's 2012. They still think it's 2011. Your club is not that club anymore. You haven't challenged for a title seriously.
They need to stay humble.
You haven't challenged for a title seriously in about a decade. Let's be honest. The closest they came to a title challenge was when they finished. They finished second like twice, but each time they finished second. Once was Mourinho. They finished second by 15 points. The next time they finished second, they ended up being the biggest gap between first and second in Premier League history. Wow. So was that really a title challenge? So where the club is now, if you say you want to challenge for a title, you are not at a stage that you can just go for that. Because even getting to the Champions League in back-to-back seasons is not something they've done regularly over the last decade. I think back-to-back seasons has happened once in the last decade that they've gone to the Champions League. If they go to the Champions League, almost like the next season they go to 5th or 6th. They go to the Champions League next season 5th or 6th. So they have to be measured in their expectation. Where the club is now, it's like a Europa League team that's doing badly. So if you say seriously, because that's what they are. If you can't qualify regularly for the Champions League, you can't tell me that we should be challenging for the title because you've hired a new coach. When has this squad in the last decade shown they can be a title challenger? You see, so I think we have to measure in our expectations. The squad, if the squad was good enough to be challenging for the title, we would have seen maybe Ten Hag do it. We would have seen maybe Mourinho do it. We would have seen maybe who else has
Ole.
come in that time?
There's
Ole do it.
There's been Van. What's his name?
It's not happened since they last won the league. So I think the expectations are a bit too high. We knew Amorim was going to have a rough start because he's also trying to implement his style on the players. And I think what has not helped, I think Marcus Rashford has let the team down severely. I'm a big fan of Marcus Rashford. I think he's one of their best players. I know a lot of people disagree, but the facts are there. He's one of the players who's consistently delivered. I think, truth be told, playing in such an unstable team, where a lot of the time he's been forced to be a senior player before his time.
He is a senior player.
But that's my point. Marcus Rashford has been one of the
big
senior...
money.
No, Marcus Rashford has been one of the senior players since he was about 22, 23 with Anthony Martial.
Yeah.
There should have been other older players to hold his hand and teach him how to be a professional. I think he's not as professional as he could be because he doesn't have role models. He's been his own role model. Who can you think of who's been like a big player, older player, who has been there to kind of lead him and teach him as he's been?
Ronaldo.
How long was Ronaldo there for?
But
By the time,
Bruno's been there for how many years now?
maybe 3
About
years.
4.
This is his
for
fourth
quite a
season.
while.
Yeah, but I mean, fourth season. He came to meet Rashford as the
And
he
to
and
be
Rashford
fair,
came to
Fernandez's
start,
leadership has been questioned at every turn.
and he came to meet Rashford as a starter.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? He didn't come and
Rashford
meet
was established as a big boy.
Rashford
before.
was established, and he came to meet him, and they came playing. How can Bruno Fernandes can come to you? Because Bruno Fernandes came from Sporting Lisbon.
Yeah.
You
He came to meet me at Manchester United.
And
Like-
what did he even won with Sporting? So
Yeah, true.
I feel like Rashford. I think for his talent and the player he should be, a lot of things have not gone his way. I'm not going to come and say he's been
In
perfect.
fact, Fernandez and Rashford are almost the same age,
Yeah,
actually.
I think
the age gap isn't even that
Yeah,
big.
I think
Fernandes is a
Rashford
bit
has also
old.
let himself down some of the things he's done. I think his professionalism has rightfully been questioned. I think this interview he gave in the last week or so was very ill-advised. It was very silly. And honestly, I don't expect to see him play until January when he's probably shipped somewhere. Because if you go
You
and
think
talk,
that transfer will happen?
I think once you
It's-
talk,
it's looking
I think
likely.
once you talk like that, you've sealed your fate. Because remember, your job for the Manchester derby. Go to training and prove yourself. Because clearly, the manager didn't like what he see. Or go and talk to the manager. Oh, you dropped me. Why did you drop me? What can I do to get better?
Yeah.
That is what someone who is serious would do. If you go and do an interview and say, you know what, I think I've achieved all I need to. You've not even won a league title with Manchester United. What do you mean? What do you mean you need a new challenge? You've not even achieved the minimum Manchester United standard. And I say this as someone who thinks Rashford is one of the best wingers in the league. I actually really like Marcus Rashford.
When
But-
he's good, he's really good. I
Exactly,
think.
but you see, that's the problem. He's not good consistently enough. And he's now, so I think a lot of things, and that's what I mean by the professionalism and the mentorship and the advice. Because he doesn't seem to have the right people giving him advice. Because that interview was very ill-advised. So now, truth be told, I feel like Man, you don't have their best attacker apart from Bruno playing. Because Garnacho is not yet there.
Yeah.
Ahmad is now showing his step. But look, can we really say Ahmad, because he's played well for 1 month, is as good as Marcus Rashford, who has consistently shown himself? I wouldn't say that.
Yeah.
So I think that's why I say I think he's let them down. And he was scoring under Amorim. The first 2 games, he did score.
Yep.
So I
Looked
feel,
like he was finding himself.
yeah, so I feel like as a player who this is a transition period, you are one of the senior players. You should stand up and be counted. You should be one of the guys the manager can look to that, okay, I can trust this guy to help me get my ideas across, to make this team better. And you basically throw in a tantrum because you're a job because of the derby.
And the funny thing is there's actually a position for him where he can thrive in this team.
Yeah.
And this is why I say the squad right now, there's a lot of issues with it because even leadership, because they're one of the few guys who's been fairly professional in his time, I would say is Harry Maguire.
Yeah.
But look at how Harry Maguire has been in and out of the team, has been treated. So there's just, I don't know.
It's a very unstable environment.
And that's part of the problem. So Amorim, even if he tries to build stability, you don't know how the players are going to react. Because if he decides to be, and this is maybe some of the issues even Ten Hag had, because we heard the thing, Ten Hag is a disciplinarian, quote unquote. That might have even been why he had issues with getting the squad to work. So I just wonder, I'm not one to criticize players and their attitudes a lot. I don't believe a lot of them. I feel a lot of the time is overblown. But I really wonder because if Marcus Rashford, who's a senior player, is behaving like this, I have to wonder about what the younger players in a fairly young squad are going to do. And that's why I bring it up, because when you're a role model, you have to behave a certain way. And we were speaking about this on off air about Cristiano Ronaldo and the whole Ten Hag thing. I said that even if Cristiano Ronaldo was right, there's a way to handle your grievances, which is professional, which he did not show. So it feels like a lot of times at Manchester United, the players just don't seem to act the way they should act.
Yeah, I mean, the circus day.
Yeah, exactly. I think that is all part of why their performances go up and down. Because sometimes a new manager comes, they are feeling good, they are happy. Because we saw them in Ten Hag's first season. That was a good team. That was a good team.
Well, Manchester United, patch up your problems. Patch up the Old Trafford roofing, patch up the press room, and patch up your player issues. It's not looking good. Let's skip the Chelsea game because there were no goals in that game. Chelsea learned to score some goals. Let's go.
But I want to say that Chelsea could have gone top if they won. So we still have to give them credit because considering how bad, because I was listening to a podcast on my way here and I just wanted to guess how many league matches did Chelsea win in 2023? The whole calendar
Probably
year.
5.
Oh, it's higher than that.
Yeah, it was a very low number actually.
Well, no more than 10.
It was 10. So for them to be, I think, have the 4th highest points per game in Europe's top 4 leagues in 2024 is very impressive. So I think even though the match didn't go as well, I think we have to give them credit that this team, especially the second half under Pochettino and the start under Maresca, has been very good. And I think the signs are very encouraging. Because we laughed at them that they spent £1 billion. They are bad and things, but look, I think things are going very well. But credit to Everton.
Just 2 games actually, against Citi and against Liverpool.
So
that's
and those are games you expect them to
exactly. So we have to give them credit, and we also have to give Everton credit because their defense seems. I think they've kept 3 straight clean sheets in the league.
So Everton,
I keep telling clean sheets.
Advice freely to Everton: don't sack the Ginger Mourinho. I'm just telling you.
But I'll be very honest.
Don't sack him.
A month ago, he was on his last legs. I think beating Wolves 4-0, and then the 2 draws he's just done. I think they bought him a lot of credits in the bank.
I think if you have this kind of squad, that's to be expected. But hey, let's move it on and go to the Tottenham Stadium. Spurs were up against Liverpool. 9 goals produced in this game. Let's get the highlights. 6 against Spurs. Let me talk to Nubo real quick on that. But Liverpool conceded 3 as well. They have conceded, I believe, over 10 goals in the last 3 or 4 matches.
Yes, that's
it's 2-3-3 or something.
Yeah, 3 against Newcastle, and then I think 2 against Fulham. Southampton 2 they conceded.
2 goals. Conceded 2 goals in that game as well.
Yeah, so for me, I think this game looked more like a club game than a slot game because you'd expect that when Liverpool went 2-0 up, they'll slow down the game, try to beat Spurs a bit more than just playing behind. But it looked like there was a lot more back and forth, even though Spurs didn't do much. But for me, I just like Slots and how he doesn't stick to one tactic every game. He does so many changes, and I'm happy to see a player like McAllister. I think when Slots came in the beginning, we didn't really know his functionality in the team per se. He's putting in some good performances.
From the Copa or one of the tournaments, so he had to sit out a bit to begin with.
Yeah, so I think Curtis Jones was getting the nod out of him, but he's looked impressive. I think this was Szoboszlai's best game this season. And for me, with the hype he came with and the quality he has, these are the kind of performances I expect from him. And Salah is always going to be Salah. An interesting feature, I think I was reading it somewhere, Liverpool have scored a lot of goals with crosses to the back post. So you would ask yourself, when Salah gets on the ball, when Trent gets on the ball, look at Spurs. They're just standing there looking at him.
It's almost as if they don't have a scouting report.
So, and you ask, and that's the thing. But for Liverpool, they've been great. And Slots, just 1 loss in, I think, is it 20 or 21 games. The only thing that will stop them is injuries. I'm a bit worried for Salah because the last 2 AFCONs he's been to, this is how he's been. Very good form prior to the AFCON.
There'll be no AFCON in January, so.
There's no AFCON in January.
No, the AFCON has been moved to July, I think. Yeah, it's been moved down.
Then Liverpool is winning the league.
Either moved to June, July, or even down the year, I think.
AFCON, you need to get some consistency.
I know, right? The AFCON has moved from
that's actually why
you're not even hearing anything about it.
I mean, that's good news for Liverpool because I think
if he had gone to the AFCON, Liverpool are dead because I think he has
27
scored or assisted
goals.
about 67.
So 15 goals, 13 assists.
No, I think it's
11 actually. 11.
Yeah, so
15,
he
11.
scored or assisted about 60-something% of Liverpool.
Yeah.
That's not
good. So the
sustainable.
AFCON is starting on 21st December.
That's good.
next year.
Oh, that's good.
Yes,
Because
21st December.
I was
told
a
you they
bit-
moved it down the year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was a bit worried because if you look at the 21-22 season where Liverpool could have won the quadruple,
Yeah.
after the AFCON, he wasn't the same again. I think post the AFCON, he scored just 2 or 3 goals and just about 1 or 2 was from open play. The rest were just penalties. So for me, just give him what he wants. So far as he keeps putting in these performances,
Give him what he wants.
give him what he wants. And another thing too about him that people don't pay too much attention to, his playmaking ability.
I think that's the bit I like about him the most.
Yeah.
Because you see, it's very easy for a player to not have a good game and be useless in the game. I think he's barely ever useless in a game.
I think he's matured. Now he's not exerting himself so much. So he waits for the game to come to him. He's not chasing after the game as much. So even the beginning of this match, he had 1 or 2 chances. It looked like he was a bit silent. And then he kicks into gear. He gets an assist.
Club
And then
era,
that's
he'd
it.
be wasting 5 chances before he'd score 1. Yeah. That's very true. Let's move it on to Spain. Let's spend some time on Barcelona. Let's get that particular game. They were up against Atletico Madrid. It was perhaps the biggest game of the round. Real Madrid will have something to say because they were up against Sevilla, but Barca Atletico is a huge game. Barca in the end lost the game literally right at the death. Let's get the highlights. Atletico Madrid and their winning streak, and Barcelona and their mini crisis that they have hit. What's to blame? Lamine Yamal injured, but clearly that your season can be derailed because a wonder kid has been taken out of the picture.
Well, we also have to be fair to them because this match and the Leganés match, if you look at the chances Barca got, they should have won. They've been wasteful. I think Lewandowski has hit a rough patch of form, a mini crisis where he's getting the chances but he's not scoring. Because the Leganés match, you watch the highlights, you're asking yourself, how did Barca not win this match? Look, and you can look at each game and you can see that a lot of time individual mistakes or individuals just not doing what they need to do. So I wouldn't be too concerned if I was Barca in terms of the process, because looking at the process, because results are not everything, performances matter. Performance-wise, they've been fine. The results just have not come. It's unfortunate, but no one cares at the end of the day when you look at the table. But that's why we're here to kind of break things down and talk about things in a deeper manner. So if you are playing games where you are getting all the chances and you are not scoring, you have to ask yourself, what's the issue? If it's Lewandowski not scoring, there's only so much you can do, because Lewandowski, there's a reason you pay that money for him. Yep. There's a reason he's one of the best strikers of the last generation. We expect him to score those goals. So I think it's just one of those things. It's a slight blip. I think what they should be more worried about is their defending. I think they are not as secure as they should be. And maybe the outside trap is not working. I don't know what it is, because it seems like teams are getting a lot of chances.
The famous offside trap.
And it seems like teams are getting one chance and they'll take it. That's another thing. So I don't want to read too much into it. By the end of the day, when you win 1 in 7, when you flew to the top of the table,
1 in 7?
Yeah, they are 1 in 7. And I
think they're being judged on how they started.
That's crisis form.
You see, and because, and I was saying this, that if Man City aren't playing the way they are playing, Barca will be the story.
This is crisis form.
Yeah.
1 in 7?
Yeah, but you see, that's what I'm saying. You look at least the last 2 games.
Yeah.
They shouldn't have lost. They played well enough to win. And even some of the other games, the Celta Vigo game, the red card happens, they collapse. Signs of a young team. So there's all these, I would say, mitigating circumstances when you look within the run that they've had, where it's like, okay, they could have won, something happened. But I also want to give credit to Atleti, because they are on about a 13-14 game winning run, the longest in their history. They've flown to the top of the table. None of us saw it coming, because we're at the beginning of the season, we're like,
race.
And you know the funny thing, they spent a lot of money, and we're here thinking, have they wasted money? Has this been a good summer for them with all the players they've bought? Because the idea was they were buying these players to challenge for the title. They didn't start too well, but now that they've picked up form and they've won those matches in a row, you have to ask yourself, did we really judge them fairly? And it looks like sometimes we can be prisoners of the moment, because the same way we thought, Barca will win the league easily after their Clasico, where they thrashed Real Madrid. It was like, Real Madrid lost 4-0. Right now, Real Madrid are closer. Real Madrid are third, I believe, with a game in hand, which if they likely win because of the way they are playing. In fact,
second, actually.
Yeah, they are second. There we go. They've already got above Barca, and we're there thinking that there's no way Barca's running away. But 2 teams have come over them. So sometimes I think we should also kind of not get caught up in the hype. But I think Real Madrid also have the most points per game this calendar year 2.4, which is basically means 80% of their games they win.
Look
So
at this,
even-
guys. The Atletico defensive record is impressive. They've conceded 12 goals all season. 12.
Playing with cell. That's interesting.
They've scored 33 and conceded 12.
Yeah, the attack has
And I
been a
think
lot
they
more
sold
potent.
Jose Maria Jimenez. And
No,
some
Jimenez
other-
is just on the bench.
Wow.
They just
They are,
don't really
they are
play.
starting. No, I think they sold him. I'm not too sure.
They,
but
they have quite a brand
but
new
they have
team
Witzel
now.
in
So
defense.
just-
So
but
that's
like
not
I
bad.
said, I think Atleti's run has been very impressive. So we should
Let-
give them credit for that.
Let me just finish off the show with some messages. Crespo from Takwa says, I think Amorim is very good, but before he will succeed, he needs to rebuild the squad to be able to challenge for trophies. Give Amorim his team.
Ten Hag won his trophies with these same players.
Brown from Swedro says, for Rashford's case, has made him understood that winning 2 titles in 4 seasons is an achievement. That
Which
I'm
title is
not,
that?
I'm not good. The FA Cup, I think it's a Carabao Cup in there. This one here says, Man City should concede defeat in accepting the 115 charges against them for peaceful relegation before EPL clubs relegate them. They will pay for humiliating Arsene Wenger back then. Prof. Zeal from Shukura. People have things on their chest. Kwame from Jolly says, can't wait for January to see if Rashford will sit on the bench for his wages or not. Imra from Teshi, this is a very strange message. I don't even know how to read it. It says, Malasia will kill us. He is a medicine, not a player. I'm not sure what that means.
I saw a lot of posts. I saw a text message. One of my friends sent a text message to our group chat that Malaysia is not good enough for United. You know,
Yeah.
United fans, they always.
But
Well,
he's been
this
injured
one-
for a while. So
Benjamin Ansa, watching from Liberia, says, I'm hoping Liverpool, that my dear Liverpool can keep this form going. Kudos to you guys. Big ups to you in Liberia. Well, that's all time will allow us to do today. Thank you very much, Nubo. Thank you very much, Susu Graham. Thank you guys out there for texting into the show and also making time to watch Scorecard. Same time next week, Scorecard will be back on your screens.